Welcome to Champions of Change Corner. Hi, I'm Tiffany. I provide quick tips and idea nuggets to help you with proven sales, marketing, and business development strategies, along with a little sprinkle of leadership concepts so that you can inspire change, impact lives, and improve outcomes for the aging, their families, and your teams. Whether you already own a business or work in senior living, home health, home care, or any other service-related business focused on improving the lives of the aging, or maybe you would like to. If your mission is to serve them, my mission is to serve you. After spending years in senior living and home health, I have become a passionate advocate for the aging and those who support them. Every week, I promise to help you gain the tools, the knowledge, and resources to improve your bottom line, whether that is for your personal career growth or business goals. It is your time to be inspired, gain practical tips, and own your future. Let's get started.
Hello, dear listeners. Have you ever worn a pair of shoes that just didn't fit right? Yeah, so that's what I've been feeling lately about the podcast name Champions of Change Corner. Yes, we are Champions of Change. Yes, that is still the name of the blog, but it just didn't feel like a good fit. It's been like trying to squeeze into those skinny jeans after a big meal. Yeah, but don't worry, because we've got a new name. And that name is as perfect as a slice of pizza on a Friday night. You guys know how much I love my pizza now. Us New Yorkers don't give that up. The new name of the podcast is, drumroll please, Start with Occupancy. Some of you may have seen that I've been putting things out about it. And the reason for it is because everything that we do in the senior living and actually senior care space, we may call it census, but it's still the same thing. Whether it is your census or whether it is your occupancy, we have to really look at who we're serving so that we can have the right strategies in place. Everything starts with occupancy. And so that is our new name. To be honest, I don't think that anyone was really that committed to Champions of Change Corner as a name. But Start with Occupancy is our new brand. And our brand is so aligned with our mission. And it's not just the podcast that is renamed, but our Facebook page now. If you look up Start with Occupancy, that's where you can find us. And on Instagram, the only thing that's going to remain Champions of Change Corner is the blog, which I have not updated as of yet because I have so many other things that we're doing, but it will be, and it'll be coming to you weekly. So come on over, check out the new digs, look at the fresh new coat of paint, and thanks for being a listener, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Now, what I'm doing is playing some old episodes that were recorded but never released. So stay tuned.
Today, what we're going to talk about as a part of our third part in our three-part series of connecting with families, we talked about methods. We talked about, my cheat sheet, oh my God, execution. Because if you know me already, you've seen me on each video. I have my little cheat sheets here. But we talked about execution, and now we're going to talk about follow-up, right? So follow-up is so important. We know just in regular sales, and no matter what sales you are, that people don't always get the message of what you're trying to convey to them unless they've seen you something like 7 times over. And most people, including senior living, do not follow up adequately or methodically and with meaning. So I'm just checking in to see how you're doing. Have you said that before? Has that been a follow-up for you before? If that is, that's not what we want you to do. You don't want to just check in. You want to make sure that you have information for that person when you're following up. So let me explain a little bit. We're going to go through about 5 things about follow-up that's important, okay? I like the number 5. Apparently it's really easy. I can go like this. So everything I do is like 5, 5. So anyway, 5, follow-up. One of the things I just mentioned, meaningful. Your follow-up has to be meaningful. It's not, I'm just checking in. What does that mean? What does that mean for that person? Oh, I'm good. Thanks for checking in. I mean, it doesn't mean anything. But when you have done the right discovery, when you have asked enough questions, when you have gone deep with the family, when you have really connected with them, you know more about them than just a check-in. You need to ask meaningful questions in your follow-up or have a meaning to your follow-up, such as, I know that you were going to take your mom to the doctor last week to see about X, Y, and Z. I wanted to know, how did that go? Were you able to communicate with the doctor about the things that you were concerned about that you discussed with me? Or it's meaningful. It's meaningful. If somebody even says, we're not going to do this at this time, which we get a lot of, right? They think about it and then they're like, this might not be the right time, blah, blah, blah. We're going to do this. So when you follow up, you're not going to just check in. You're going to say, how has mom been able to mitigate the things that you were concerned about before at home now? Has it gotten better for her? Are you still experiencing any issues? What can I do to give you as a resource while mom is at home to help keep her engaged? So you're asking questions. Your follow-up has meaning. You just don't want to, hey, I'm just checking in and see how things are going. What does that mean? What does it mean? It means nothing. So the thing is, with follow-up, you want to make sure that you have meaningful follow-up, that it is something that is specific to that person. It has to make sense. I have seen a lot of times where follow-up doesn't really make sense. Your follow-up has to align with the information that you have received. It cannot be misaligned. It has to line up to it. So you don't want to have a follow-up that doesn't make sense. I'll get you an example, right? The person tells you mom is a loner. She doesn't really like to, be around a whole lot of people. And she has always been that way, loves to read, loves to garden, but she's really not a people person, And then your follow-up is like, hey, I wanted to invite you to our karaoke night or karaoke event that we're having. We're going to have a blast. No, that's not going to interest me because that's not mom, right? I mean, the daughter maybe, or, her son may be concerned about mom's socialization, but if you're asking the deeper questions and based on going there that mom never really was into all of that, especially karaoke, why would your follow-up be to invite that person to a karaoke night or a karaoke event, something like that? You know what I mean? So your follow-up needs to align with who that person is, and it has to make sense. Number 3, because that was number 2. Number 3 is, how does it connect? So when I used to be in a community, I used to take the resident activity calendar and I would have a copy of my own self. And in the beginning, I always got my own personalized copy. I would highlight the events that would be good events for someone to go to. And even if they were regular events. So if there's a happy hour, so I knew what days and times those events were. So I knew ahead going into my month what some of my follow-up would be with some of the people that probably would call into me. I tried to be as proactive and less reactive as possible. And the only way to do that is to make sure that you do proactive things. So for instance, I also used to go to the dollar store and buy cards. I bought thinking about you cards, get well cards, birthday cards, all, these 2 for $1 cards. But again, that was always a part of my follow-up, because if someone says, you know what, I was thinking about coming in, we were going to come in, Tiffany, but mom had to go out to the hospital, I would send a get well card. If someone says, you know what, this is not the time, right now we are still doing some other things at home that we got to do, and I knew that my next step was some type of connection with that person, I would send an actual card to say, hey, I'm thinking about you. And then some type of information based off of that conversation that we had or what's going on in that person's life. Again, connection is about depth, not breadth. It's not how many touches. We in corporate and regional level, we count that. But I always ask my people, hey, people, if you've been on my team, you can answer below. That has always been the quality and the depth that you went into. What are we doing to touch people each and every day? And then another part of the follow-up is, are we answering their questions? If somebody has questions about healthcare, have questions about care at home, have questions about hey, I'm trying to get my mom to be more aligned on her diet for diabetics. Have you connected with a dietitian that you can relate to that person? If that person has an issue with hoarding, do you have a resource out there to help people, especially older adults who hoard? And what does that look like that can walk that daughter through that situation or that son? Whatever the question they have, I had a resource. Does that make sense? You should be that point of resource for almost every single thing that person can come to you. It takes a while to build it up. It takes a lot of networking, and that's why you go to events, and that's why you do business development. That's why you make connections with professionals that can touch on all of these things. And I say that, of course, now we're not going out to events, but that doesn't stop you from reaching out to people who specialize in hoarding and people who do this and that and the other. I always tried to make sure that I had a resource. I always kept my eyes open for new resources that could help assist my family. I always looked at that as a way of partnership, not a formalized partnership, but something that I could say, oh, wait a minute. Somebody says, hey, my mom wants to go swimming all the time and you guys don't have a pool, and that's a barrier for me. No problems. We actually have a partnership with the YMCA and they have a pool. And what's so great about their pool is, and what's so great about having your mom live here and then going to the Y is, and so I always tried to make sure that there was an answer to any of their questions that they would have, including objections, right? That's a part of what we do is really, this is not a comfortable conversation. It's not something that's comfortable that people really want to do. And so the more we can help them along the way, holding their hand and answering their questions, the better we will be at being a resource for them. Again, so that even if our community isn't the right one for them, they would be able to refer us to other people. I have had many of people who said, this community wasn't right for me because of cost or whatever have you, but I wanted to let you know, just contact Tiffany. She will direct you in the right area. That's all I would want from people. Like, that was fine. Contact me. Let me be the point of contact for any of your families or friends or colleagues or associates' needs. That was great for me because people, instead of going online and looking, they would say, you know what, so-and-so told me to call you because you would probably know X, Y, and Z. And when I tell you hands down that was one of the things that I was really proud of and really glad to do for people, that was it. To being that resource for people far and wide, all over. So the next part of this follow-up process is the next step, which in and of itself is its own video. So I'm not going to really go deep into that, but understanding that as you're doing a follow-up, you should have a next step in mind. We talked about strategy before, right? That was on one of the other videos, is being strategic with how you're thinking and how you're going to execute these things. A part of your strategy when you're making a follow-up call, follow-up connection is, what is that next step? And I say call, it doesn't have to be a call. It could be a visit, a follow-up visit or whatever have you. What does that next step look like? And like I said, I can do a whole long video on next steps, but being strategic in your next step. Do you have in your mind, what are you hoping to accomplish through this interaction and through this connection? That again is what is super important when it comes to follow-up, is how are you going to move this person through the next stage of their journey? Because we are all in life are going through a journey. We are all on a roadmap of from here to there. We all start someplace and end someplace, and there's a long dash in between. Some of us is a short dash, right? And so what are we doing and what steps are we making to help ourselves through this journey? And for you, this journey of decision making that these families or these prospective residents have, this is important for you to think about, is what is the next step? What am I hoping to accomplish? And when you're doing that, it's not just, I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to accomplish, right? You should have at least 3 tiers of what you're trying to accomplish. 3 check marks, three things. And so if you check off one and the highest, best one, amazing. But if you can check off 2, then that's great too, right? I never forget when I did home health sales and I was working with physicians back then, obviously. And one of the things I remember one of my trainers told me is that, a great next step is Did that physician give you his cell phone number? Yeah, you may not have gotten a referral, but this physician just gave you his personal cell number. Oh my God. That opens up a world of opportunity that shows that he trusts you and that he wants to keep the lines open for you. So every next step doesn't have to be a move in. Every next step doesn't have to be a deposit. Your next steps have to also connect. It has to make sense. So if your next step is they just came in to visit, woo, they're moving in. Sometimes that happens. You have those little bluebirds that, all of a sudden, and it happens, especially when it comes to memory care. That definitely happens, right? Because people, they wait so long to the point of need. For others, it's not. It's a journey, and we got to walk them through it. I hope this was helpful to all of you. If you have any questions, you can always find me on Tiffany Hill Allen at Instagram. Love to hear from all of you. Thanks so much, and I've enjoyed our time together.
Hey there, podcast lovers. If you're on the lookout for a new podcast to add to your rotation, then you should definitely check out Aspire for More with Erin. It is hosted by the most talented and inspiring Erin Thompson. This podcast is all about helping you reach your full potential and achieve your dreams. With each episode, Erin shares insightful and practical advice that you can apply to your own life, whether it is in your career, your personal growth, relationships, or any other area you want to improve in. She's an expert at helping people unlock their inner potential and become their best selves. And you won't want to miss out on her wisdom and her guidance. With many years as an executive director and inspiring her team, she has really focused in on what it takes to have self-improvement in your life. And it's fun and engaging to listen to. The best thing is that Erin is also one of our coaches for our Compass Rose Accelerator program. Erin's friendly approach and her wonderful tone makes you feel like you're chatting with a close friend. She's insightful and fascinating. So what are you waiting for? Give Aspire for More with Erin a listen and subscribe today. I am sure you will not regret it. I have a favor to ask of you. I would love for you to like and or follow the podcast, whatever your podcast player suggests that you do, so that you can get alerts on new episodes as they come out. And if you don't mind, share the podcast with other sales professionals in our space, that there is a podcast that is created just for them. If you have suggestions or topics that you would like for me to cover on the podcast, go to Start with Occupancy on Facebook or Instagram and DM me and put the word in their podcast and then what you would suggest. That way I can kind of go through the DMs, and I know if I see the word podcast, I know that is from you, my podcast listener. And it will allow me to really identify your DM to me personally. So thank you again for everything. And I appreciate you guys.